Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today. I am Jody Lavoie, the founder of the Grief Company. And I put this show together because there's so much more to learn and understand about grief, and in particular, grief in the workplace, and how you, as employees, managers, benefits directors, can help support your employees in grief. And grief goes beyond just death. Of course, major life-changing events all have grief with them. And today I'm inviting my guest, Jordan, to talk to us from Support Now. And Jordan and I met, gosh, earlier this year on LinkedIn because I was really intrigued about what they are doing at Support Now. And I'm, of course, going to let her share the secret sauce behind that. So, welcome, Jordan.
Hi, Jody. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I'm so glad you're here. And Jordan, of course, is the CEO of Support Now. And as a fellow entrepreneur in a variety of different business spaces, I always love hearing founders' aha moments. What was your back of the envelope that made you want to start Support Now?
Sure. My husband and I started this company a couple of years ago. And our aha moment was through the first iteration of this company. So we previously went to market with a concept and a company called Mi Alma, which is Spanish for my soul. And the goal of that company was to support families going through loss. And in that technology, we did a couple of things. One was we provided a space for people to upload pictures, stories, and memories of their loved ones. And then the other component of the technology was what we call the support registry, an area for people to raise money, schedule meals, coordinate volunteers, and to send updates. And when we went to market with Mi Alma, what we realized is that updating or uploading pictures was very hard for people. It was very emotional for people. And at the very same time, the support registry thing really resonated with people. And we were getting a lot of customers and people coming inbound asking, hey, I really like this. Can I use this for my friend who just got cancer? Or can I use this for someone I know whose house just burned down? Or can I use this for someone whose house is recovering from a hurricane or things of that sort? Things that weren't necessarily death related or even like severe in the sense of, long term. And so what we realized was that there was an opportunity to serve a larger part of the market by really expanding the aperture of who we were marketing towards. So instead of just being loss, we thought, well, could we reach a broader audience by providing this support registry for all of life's major life moments, including several of the ones I mentioned, and that being the focus of the company. And with that pivot, which was almost 14 months ago, what we found is that was the right move, because now we have invited more people to what we do. And while certainly we serve a great deal of loss, it's far more approachable this way than leading with death solely.
And thank you for all of that and the background around that. And isn't it interesting with the photos, how that, your original concept of how that really was challenging for people, and it is, and all the memories that come up, and especially during times of change and loss and life tumult. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
share a little bit, because one thing I love about Support Now is it's all in one. It's under one umbrella, if you will, with the registry, and as opposed to go here to do this, go here to do this, go here to do this. It's really a one-stop shop. So talk a little bit more about that and what's included.
Sure. So my experience, I approach support now not necessarily from the perspective of the family. I'm very honest that I don't have some crazy, tragic, sad story that I like bring to the table. I bring what I like, my entire approach to this company is really coming from the supporter point of view. So, like you, like everybody, I've been on the receiving end of the text message, the email, the phone call, the Facebook notification that someone I love has gone through something. And what I noticed is that we really live in this culture of cash and casseroles. And we live in this culture primarily because the tools available to us as supporters have really conditioned us to believe that that really is the totality of what support is. And anyone that's walked through one of these more difficult seasons would tell you, while certainly those things can be helpful, it is not comprehensive. When people are going through loss or a cancer diagnosis or a baby in the NICU PICU or a chronic illness diagnosis or disability, what they need are things around the house, walking the dog, someone to watch an older or younger kid. They may be seeking prayer or visitation. And so what Support Now does is it brings together all these components that we know supporters want to do, but to do so in a way that's all in one place. So you can raise money, you can coordinate meals, you can schedule volunteers, and you can also send out updates all in one place. And it's flexible. So I don't expect everyone to always need everything that we offer. And oftentimes they don't. A lot of times registries begin with just using us for updates. Perhaps they have a sibling or a parent or a grandparent in the hospital and they want to keep people up to date on how things are going. And then over time, what happens is they realize that there are greater needs. Maybe again, that's food, or perhaps you start collecting medical bills, or you're just sensing from your community that there's just more support there than you anticipated. And you need and want to give a space for people to actually deposit that support, deposit that compassion. So it's all in one. But what I really stress is that we're modern and we're flexible because we know that every situation is different. And we also know that these situations don't stay the same. They're not stagnant. People's needs evolve as life evolves. And you should have one platform, one place to do all of that.
And something I love the lend a hand piece that you have of it, because that is one of the biggest questions people come to me with. What can I do? I have a friend that is going through this. How can I help? Everybody wants to help and they don't know what to do. And of course, the person going through it doesn't know what they need. And
Correct.
so in general, who is kind of the keeper of the platform for the person going through a key life changing moment?
Sure. So I'll touch on the first point you made and then I'll answer your question. I'm a big believer that we are all born with an innate support language. Some of us already know what that is, some of us don't, but we all have them. And part of what I'm so passionate about in regards to Support Now is that we really give a space to allow everybody to show up in a way that's right for them. If you're not the cook, don't cook. If you're not the dog lover, don't walk the dog. But you might be a listening ear. You might be the person that can recite a beautiful prayer. You might be someone who might want to, mow your lawn, right? We all like have these talents, these desires, these strengths that we want to be like the platform, that inclusive nature that allows everyone to feel good about doing something.
Mm-hmm.
To answer your question, we see actually about a 50-50% split on who creates a registry. I joke that 50% of the time, it's the maid of honor, right? It's the best friend, the one that won't go away, the one that's telling you, I don't care how many times you say you don't need anything, we're doing this, right? Someone that has like the ability to push back, because our instinct as humans is to say, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And
And I'm so glad you touched on that, because that I hear that a lot with especially the widow clients I work with. Oh, I don't want to ask for help. I don't want them to go out of their way. I don't want, and these are times you need to ask for help. And just your ability to receive the help is such a gift for the people doing it.
That's right. It's such a blessing. I hear that from customers all the time, that they realize that they were preventing other people from the blessings they wanted to give. And so I would say, again, normally, maybe slightly more than 50% of the time, it's the best friend type that's saying, I'm going to do this, not because you're asking,
Yeah.
but because there are, whether it's 10 people, 50 people, 500 people that want to do something. You have to give them a space to do something.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the time, it would be traditionally, it's the mom that says, man, everything feels so out of control. This is
Hmm.
something I feel like I can control. I can control the updates I send. I can control the amount of money we ask for. I can control the food requests. And so that it almost works as like their command center to communicate outward to the community. Because part of what we recognize is that two things are true at the same time. And you touched on this a little bit earlier. One is that the family is absolutely going through some degree of decision fatigue. That is true. We honor that. We understand that. That is a very real thing. And at the very same time, there are people that want to support you. So we exist to serve that like space in between where someone might say to you, but the family might say, I don't know what I need. And that's fine. But there should still be a shield. Like there should be a place that shields the family from having to answer that question over and over and over again, which we know is very difficult.
Hmm.
And there should be a place that shows supporters that they can do something, even if the family might not know exactly what that thing is. Because oftentimes it's the behaviors of the community that prompts the family into asking for more of the things. They're almost looking to see like what might be possible, which is why I'm a big believer in if you are a supporter and you feel inclined to do something, do it.
Yeah.
Because if you wait too long for permission, you might never get that chance.
Say a little bit more about how the behaviors of the community could influence the person receiving, because that's interesting, and I've never thought about it like that.
So part of what's really amazing to me about our lend a hand feature is the lend a hand can work in two different ways. So one is maybe the family or what we call the organizer knows exactly what they need. They're looking for play dates. They're looking for someone to walk their dog, and they're looking for it at very specific times. And with our lend a hand feature, we also have an offer a hand button on every registry, which allows a guest or the community to go in and proactively offer something that might not be listed. And so it's not unusual for maybe someone to say, I would like to do your laundry. I would like to walk your dog. I would like to come visit. And then what happens is we see the shift in the registry now go from not asking those things to saying, actually, it would be very helpful to have this help with this particular item. And it's not because they thought of it originally, it's that their friends, their neighbors, their colleagues showed them that this is something that people already want to do, which reduces that shame that naturally comes from accepting help or asking for help, and really invites this feeling of, wow, people really want to do this. I need to allow them to do this, not for me, for them.
I really like that. What a way to relieve the receiver and help them really understand that it's okay and this is what people want to do, and that's their generous spirit. And I think you said, what did you say? It was you were preventing other people from the blessings they want to give. I thought that was really beautiful. So I
Yeah.
wanted to bring it up again. I
It's
like
not
that.
my words, they're my customers, but I agree. Every time I hear it,
I
I'm like,
like it.
yes, I agree. I agree.
Yes. Yes. So share a little bit, because we're on LinkedIn here, about how this applies to the workplace today.
Yeah. So I'll give a little bit of a backstory on this. So I was fortunate to work at an incredible company for 7.5 years, a B2B tech SaaS company called SalesLoft. Amazing culture, incredible people, was supported in all the ways that employees should be supported in a journey. And so much of like the ethos of support now comes from my experience at Sales Off, where I saw what it was like to be supported, not just as an employee, but as a person. And what I know to be true is particularly in tech, but not limited, is that, and this is very well studied, you spend a lot of time with your colleagues.
Right.
You spend more time with your colleagues than you do than with your own family. And the right companies, they cultivate that, they understand that. And so what that means is that you're not just there when they get engaged or when they have babies. What that means is that when they're going through hard times, maybe they have a kid in the NICU PICU, perhaps they've lost a parent or a grandparent, or perhaps they themselves are sick.
Mhm.
Companies want to do something, but they don't know what to do. And one of the things that I've been so struck by, really since in the year that we've been around, is that some of our most powerful registries, and powerful meaning just the sheer number of things happening, have come from frontline managers
Mhm.
creating registries for their employees. And I used to say it surprises me, but as I think about it more, it really doesn't. Because as someone who cared deeply about my colleagues, they became friends, they've become lifelong friends. If I ever knew that something in the vicinity of the things that we do happened to them, I would want to take action immediately. And most importantly, I want to send that to the other colleague or former colleague to say, you need to know about this. And so I think Support Now, obviously I'm biased, is an incredible resource for companies that know that these things are going to happen and want to feel like they're doing the right thing to support their colleagues or their employees in a way that's less pressure packed because of just by nature of how we do things. It's not saying you have to give money. It's not saying you have to do a meal. In fact, we're meeting people where they are relative to the relationship and the skills that their colleagues might have. And one thing I didn't mention, but is still relevant, is that families keep more of the money with Support Now. So why do people select us over competitors? It's like, well, you're just going to keep more of the money. And in most cases, they keep 100% when supporters round up. And so I love working with companies because, again, Support Now is free. So I just want to be a resource that HR leaders and frontline managers know about, so that when, not if, when these things happen, they feel equipped to move quickly. And what's the coolest thing is that while these things typically start with a company, they extend well beyond that. They get the ball started. And now the entire community is rallying around this employee, but it was started by the company. And that's such a beautiful thing to say, wow, this was started by your manager, by your director, by your HR leader. They were the ones that went first. And it's a very positive look on the company to say, yes, we saw this. We wanted to support them. And now, this is a resource. Now this is a place for anyone that knows and loves them to come to support them.
And that is an excellent point, because it's trying to humanize this a very difficult time in people's lives, and employers don't know about all of these extra resources and tools that can bring empathy and connection and support and extra love, if you will, from the company. And so many, the managers, they get the call, something happened. They're like, uh-oh, what is our bereavement policy? Oh, it's X days off, and we'll tell them about their 3 EAP visits. And that's it.
That's it.
It's
Yeah.
very it's not very supportive, because those days are really just for, oh, you went to the funeral, you used your days, you now kind of have to come back. And then, well, in your home, or maybe close the door to your office 1, 2, 3 times, and you can get a little support on the phone. And here it's this whole, it's the company and employees and people in the community all coming together to, I don't know, I'm seeing a hug here, envelop you in a great hug
It
of
is a hug.
support.
It is a hug. And
Wow.
that's, support now. I always talk about support now as like, yes, we're a tool for the family, but we are at our core, we are a supporter tool. We are the tool that people use because they want to do something, not because someone's asking. And so the other thing I would say is that you don't have to have all the answers. I've heard from a few people, what if I don't know what their needs are? Should I create a registry? It's like create the registry so that your colleagues and the rest of the employees can choose what they want to do.
Mhm.
And even raising money, as taboo as raising money can be, raising money doesn't have to go towards medical bills or funeral costs. It could go towards a vacation for the employee and their siblings to go somewhere just to get away for a bit. It could be to pay for food at the memorial service. It could be to pay towards a scholarship in honor of a parent or a grandparent. We tend to overthink these things.
Mhm.
It's just getting like allowing the community to show up in the way that they feel inclined to do. And oftentimes what happens is the employee or the family member, they end up taking it and running with it in a way that's more specific. But you don't have to have all the answers. I always say we're not striving for perfection here. We're striving for progress. Just get it started.
Yeah. And kind of the raising money piece of it goes a little bit hand in hand with, oh, I don't want people helping me. There's a bit of uncomfortableness from the person on the receiving end of, geez, I'm not really comfortable of asking people for money. And again, it goes back to your point of they just want to help. And that is how they give their gift. And maybe money is a way for them to do it. And they feel good about it. And they're helping support the person in need towards
Right.
whatever capacity that may be.
Right.
Say a
And
little bit
and
more
and by
about
the way,
money.
sorry, Jody, one last thing. Sorry, one last thing. It's, you could also use that money to donate towards something. So it's just an expression. As I always say, it's an expression of support. And that expression means something.
Mhm.
And what you do with that expression is ultimately up to the employee. It's up to the person. And we just in general, not just companies, we tend to wait too long where there's ultimately just a failure to launch. And then you kind of feel that feeling that we all hate, which is that guilt, like I should have done something. And
Yeah.
that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah. And I hear that often from people that I don't want to say forgot, didn't know how to support someone going through a major life tragedy. So they didn't say anything. And then a month later, they're like, well, it's kind of too late. And no, action.
Yeah,
People need some action. And even if you don't know the right words to say, it's okay to say, I don't know what to say, but I just want you to know I'm thinking about you and I'm here to support you.
exactly right. That's
That's it.
exactly right.
Yeah. I know you touched on the cost a little bit, but if you could just be a little bit more clear for everybody so they know.
Yeah, so support now is completely free. So anyone can go onto our website, create a registry. That's very easy. One thing I also failed to mention is you also can have multiple organizers on a registry. So for companies specifically, this is important because maybe the frontline manager or the HR leader gets it started, but you can always invite the family or the cousin or the sister. So it's not like the onus is solely on the company. No, generally speaking, companies get this started. They invite one or two close friends or a neighbor or something of the sort that's maybe a little bit closer to that person, to the employee, um, on a like outside the office perspective, and then it goes from there. But it's completely free. And then if you have money turned on, which again, it's optional to have money turned on at all, families will keep more of it. So the way our technology works, the way our model works is we align incentives with the family. We want families to keep 100% of the money, and that's possible through Support Now when supporters round up. So if people want to give $50, $100, whatever that amount is, you'll have an optional roundup at the point of transaction. And if and when supporters round up, the family receives 100% of the intended gift. And then the delta of that percentage goes to us to keep this free and to keep this ad free. That's how we keep growing to support more families just like them. And so really, we have tried to model support now in a way that is truly aligned with our values and our mission of supporting families. And in order to do that, we ask that the supporters give a little bit more. And what we've already found, which is amazing, is about 94% of times people round up. So many of our customers, they see more of the money, if not 100%. And everyone feels good. The family feels good because they've collected all those funds. Supporters feel good because not only are they supporting their friend, but they're supporting kind of this like greater mission to allow others to use support now. And that's the goal, to keep growing and growing through volume, but by doing things the right way, and by doing things in a way where it's not about, earning every percentage point it's really just saying, we want to give you the option to do this, and we're very transparent around how this works. And if they don't, they don't. If they don't round up, we actually the family will still keep more money than they would on a GoFundMe or something of the sort. So either way, but the hope is that the people round up so that they can see 100%.
I love that option. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So I could keep talking to you forever. And I love that you know the data too. 94% of people actually round up, and that's significant.
Yeah.
So what's one thing from our conversation today that you'd love workplace leaders to take away?
Oh, just one.
Okay, two, if you want.
No, I'm really thinking through specific registries I've seen that have been started at companies, and the feedback we've gotten is, I didn't realize how many people cared for this person.
Mhm.
Um, and so I would just say to a frontline manager specifically, it it's bigger than you think to get something like this started in a good way. And the employee will never forget. And I think we always think about this, and professionally, you always think about, how you treat employees and how important it is to treat employees a certain way, because one day they won't work for you and you never know where that person's going to end up. I always say that support now is going to be one of those things that you'll be so glad that you did, because they'll never, ever forget how you showed up for them. And there's we talk about this, and I think, Jody, we've talked about this in the past, just in general, people remember who showed up and frankly, who didn't show up in the harder times of lives than the people who did. And it's such an opportunity for companies to show up during life's major life moments that are more challenging. And it's one of those things where I always like, don't miss this opportunity.
Yeah.
Because it's not that they don't happen often, they do. But if you're in a leadership position, you are uniquely positioned to support employees, and they'll never forget it. Because I promise you, in companies, regardless of whether or not you're using support now, you remember how your employers treated you. And we are just a vehicle to showcase that support, and to do so in a way that's easy, that's modern, that's inclusive, and that everyone can feel really good about.
Thank you. And I actually do have a follow-up question to that, because
Yeah.
I think this is important. You've talked a lot about frontline managers taking the initiative, but what if you are the CEO of a company and you're like, this is really cool, I want to roll this out of my company. How does one do that? How does that
Yeah.
happen?
I honestly, we think about this all the time, because there's nothing that prevents companies saying, we want to adopt this. What I believe is the best approach, and as I say this with humility, like, we're still trying to figure this out. So if someone listening to this is like, well, I have an idea of how you could roll, we're very open to that. My belief, though, is if a CEO or a chief people officer type hears something like this and says, this is amazing, I want my company to know about this. My understanding is that a lot of companies, they do have either a resource guide, or they meet with, kind of call it your management team or your VP levels, and you're oftentimes, if not one, typically once a year, but maybe even quarterly, rolling out, hey, would I let you know, we've just started rolling out these benefits or these tools, that we would be included and those types of things, similar to how you talk about benefits. And um, depending on the size of the company, there's typically something going on where the best opportunity to show this to a company is to build it for someone right now and to circulate it so that everybody can see, hey, we're using this and here's why. And so I really do think a top-down approach absolutely can work. It will come with consistent communication
Mm.
and a reminder that, God forbid an employee experiences a loss and, the manager goes to HR and says, hey, this person just experienced a loss. What's the bereavement policy that the HR leader can then say, hey, here's the policy. And if we haven't already, I think we should consider building a registry. By the way, this can stay as small as the immediate team. Perhaps it doesn't need to go company-wide. It just depends, right? But at least allowing the chief people officer or HR officer type to be able to say, we also have things that we can do here at very minimal effort that can have a major, major impact on the employee's experience with this particular event.
Thank you. That's a perfect way to end, except for I want people to know how to reach you. How can they reach you?
First of all, thank you for this opportunity. As you can tell, I love talking about this, and I firmly believe that we are just getting started, and the more companies that hear this, the better. People can find us at our website, supportnow.org. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. You can also follow me personally on LinkedIn. I always like to post things and stories that I'm seeing and just tidbits and advice that I have based off of, frankly, just like where I sit and just talking to customers, talking to supporters, and of course, being internal. And then I also encourage people to follow us on Instagram, supportnow_org. We have some fun over there and really just inviting people to think about support differently. Support doesn't have to be seen as like this uncomfortable thing or like, oh, I don't know what to do. I want to see a culture where we really just like lean in to those natural talents and instincts again. And I think that we can make that possible and make it in some ways fun again, because that's who we are as humans. Like, we are tribal by nature. And really what we're doing is we're just giving a technology platform for that village to come together on the internet. And so again, thank you for the opportunity. And I'm always, always happy to talk to anyone who's interested in learning more.
Super. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank
Have a
you.
great. Bye, everyone.